Broadcasting from Baltimore, Maryland, this is 5x3 Radio, where strength is for everyone. I'm your host, Emily Sokolinski, owner of 5x3 Training, a strength and conditioning gym in Baltimore, along with my co-host, Rebecca Fishburne, founder of Cornerstone Strength Maryland. Each week, Rebecca and I will discuss the ins and outs of strength training, why there is a no one-size-fits-all approach, and why strength is so important in our daily lives. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Now, on with the show. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the 5x3 Radio podcast. With me, of course, as always, Rebecca, and we're here today to talk about a subject that Rebecca is actually quite familiar with, and I am too. We've been both doing some online coaching, so we want to talk about online coaching versus in-person coaching. But before we get into that, just want to remind everybody that the Charm City Strongwoman contest, the registration has opened up, and people have been registering. We've got a nice group of ladies so far lined up, some new people, some usual suspects, as always, and some good sponsors, too. So if you know of anybody who's interested in the contest or you're looking to support a great cause, a link will be in our podcast from now until the contest. To help support the Ulman Foundation and specifically the Ulman House, which is a house dedicated to providing housing for young adults who are going through cancer treatment at Johns Hopkins Hospital. So it's a great cause, and we're looking forward to raising our final amount of money to hit $100,000
yeah, that was
this year.
That was your goal when you first set out, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nice.
So this is our 5th year, and we've got just $20K to go. So that's an easy number to hit. And then after this will be just, fundraising for fundraising. We won't have a specific goal. But we're looking forward to the contest.
It's just icing.
Exactly. It's just extra. So Sunday, June 12th is our contest date. And again, we'll have a link in the podcast notes about the Charm City Strongwoman contest and a link to the Ulman House. And once we get our Charm City Strongwoman page up, then we can start accepting donations as well. But you're always welcome to send a donation to the Ulman House and make a note that it is for the Charm City Strongwoman contest. And that money will go directly to the contest, which goes specifically to the Ulman House for a specific cause. So back to what I mentioned earlier, Rebecca and I have been doing a lot of online coaching. Actually, Rebecca, you've been doing more online coaching than I have. Yeah.
Since
COVID, especially since COVID. But online coaching has been around it's been around for a while. It's just, I think now it's definitely increased in popularity as a result of COVID. People needing to have a coach available because they couldn't get to their gym. A lot of people built their own gyms.
Building their own garage gym or
built, So, and it has a lot of benefits. There's obviously cons to online coaching versus like in-person coaching, but there's a lot of pros. There's a lot of benefits to online coaching. And I think if you find the right online coach, you're going to be successful. It's really looking for somebody, and this, I guess I'm just kind of jumping into it. Like, how do we want to kind of open up the talk about online versus in person? Should we just do kind of the pro con? Should we go down to who, what, why, where, when, who?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm thinking just to start out with, like, generally people, when they're starting out online coaching, in my mind, kind of fall into 2 categories. Mm-hmm. People who either have already had some in-person coaching and experience with starting strength and have practiced the lifts with a coach at some point, right? Mm-hmm. So people who are already familiar and have done the lifts and just maybe are looking for some programming help or some accountability or some structure or someone to just keep an eye on their lifts and their form and watch for form creep or, give suggestions. So like sort of that category. And then there are other people, and I've had a lot of people that I've started out brand new, strictly online. Mm-hmm. And that is not an ideal scenario, right? Like if you're starting out brand new, you haven't done the lifts before, I don't think you're going to find anybody who's going to tell you that online coaching would be preferable to in-person coaching. Like if you can actually work with somebody in person and that coach can walk all the way around you 360 degrees, they can give you immediate feedback, they can give you tactile cues. Right. All of that is going to be a much faster learning process. But I think just with, people's openness to doing things virtually, or people's creativity and adaptability, given the conditions when gyms close down and all of that sort of stuff. I have actually sort of figured out a reasonably okay way to start a brand new person out completely online. And it's obviously like a slower process. And you get like some immediate feedback. We do a couple sessions initially, either by Zoom or by FaceTime, kind of depends on somebody's connection, on their internet connection, and which of those two seems to work better. So they'll do a lift and get some immediate feedback that way while they're doing the lift. But, I'm sort of limited to 2 camera angles. Although I have done it before where I was working with a wife who was starting out brand new, hadn't done the lifts before. The husband had some familiarity and was interested in kind of hanging out in the gym. And so he manned a portable camera. Nice. So we had one that was a constant.
That's ideal.
I could kind of like talk to the husband, go around to the other side.
Yeah.
So that was interesting, but also added a layer of confusion. So I mean, those are sort of, to me, the two types of online coaching. Yeah. Somebody brand new and somebody who's had some experience, and they sort of follow somewhat different trajectories.
Right. And the ones who are contacting you who are brand new, because that's not been my experience. I mean, I had one client who I'm working with online who is new to the barbell training, but he's not new to me. He was at my gym a few years ago. So I know how he moves because he was but he was doing my boot camp class, basic training. So I knew how he moved, but I hadn't seen him in a few years. So we started off with barbell training, and that was like completely online. Haven't seen him. He lives in Florida. I didn't do a single, kind of one-on-one Zoom session even with him. I just sent him 4 videos to basically start to watch and get an idea of how to get under the bar, how to set up for the press, how to set up for the deadlift. And then it took a good month to tweak a bunch of things because there was, quite a bit off. But it was, but he moves really well. So it's, in a sense, it's kind of lucky. I'm going to have the experience, and I had the experience a few years ago when I was working with Barbell Logic, when they were starting strength online coaching. Right. And I had a couple of people who were starting off completely brand new, and that was it did take some time. It took a long time. I'm probably better now than I was then.
Yeah, with those people, did you do like a real-time virtual session?
No, never.
Or just they went straight to video?
Yeah, it was always
submitting video.
It was always that. They one lived in Australia, one lived in Ireland. So it would have been kind of it would have been kind of tricky, but that wasn't really an option. There was no option at that point. It was like, and with Barbell Logic, and I'm not sure how you work, but how we work. Well, when I was working with them, it was every other day. So it was 3 times a week that you gave feedback. So they submitted videos after each session, and then it was like 24 hours later kind of thing. I don't do that, right? I don't do that personally. My coaches don't do that. We might do intermittent, little bit of coaching throughout the week, but people usually will just submit the videos at the end of the week, get their feedback, get updates for the program, and then continue on for the next week. So it's not this every other week, but my coaches are really good, and I do the same thing throughout the week. If people are updating their spreadsheet or updating on the forum, we're getting, we're just kind of checking in with them. Hey, looking good. See you. Seeing you. Don't forget to submit your videos, kind of thing. But it was a lot to do every other day. Yeah. I have to say that was a lot. Yeah.
Well, and I'll tell you too, when I did a series of coaching classes with Rory, and when I first started that, I was doing my online coaching where I was providing feedback pretty much after every lift.
Yeah.
And if you have somebody who's on a 4-day split, I mean, that's a lot of having to remember somebody else's coaching schedule.
Yes.
And it was while I was taking that course where Rory was kind of like, that's sort of outside of the norm for what people are providing for coaching. And if you're going to do that, you should be charging a whole lot more money than what you're charging. Or you should switch to weekly check-ins. And so that's sort of what I migrated towards. But I did, when I first started, I had some, one guy on a 4-day split, other people on 3 days a week. I was checking and giving feedback after each lift. And I was she was saying, well, how many, how much do you want to expand your online coaching program? And, set your goals for your number of online clients. And I'm like, I can't handle any more than 10 and have my other, in-person clients and my family. And
seriously.
She's like, 10? She's like, how is that even, because she was thinking more in terms of weekly check-ins. And I'm like, because I'm doing every day.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a lot. That's a lot for not just you, the coach, but for the trainee too. Because that means you're having to upload your videos immediately. Yeah. And, some people are good like that. Other people, life gets in the way.
Uploading the videos, like it depends where a person lives and what their internet connection is. Like I have one individual at the moment. I'm not really sure how this happens because I also coach her husband, but her video uploading experience, as she describes it to me, is very different than his. A lot. And she says she's not able to do it. It takes hours and hours. And so she sort of just will upload video once a week. I have to, there's a different lift during the day, like a Wednesday squat that I want to see, and I have to specially request and ping her to get her to upload that one too. But I had a couple in Tennessee, and they had, they're in the mountains and their connection was slow, and it took them a long time to upload video, and so it just depends.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it's also that, and schedules change. I mean, my one client in Florida, he'll sometimes train 3 times a week. Sometimes he trains twice a week. It might vary because he's a doctor. So his schedule could be, what it is. He's tired at the end of the day. So I'm not going to worry about that. All I do is kind of see the spreadsheet. He'll give me an idea of this week I plan to train Tuesday, Thursday. Great. And then I'll ask him, what are your plans for next week? My next week I'm planning to train Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday. Okay. Yeah. At least I'll update the spreadsheet. He'll follow it as he can, and I'll just kind of be checking in to see if it's been updated, if he's done the program, what notes he has, and if there's something that I want to address, I might even just type a quick note on the spreadsheet itself. But it's very easy it's much easier to do that than to commit to every other, to expect to give feedback immediately for the next session.
Right.
And I find that that's not necessarily really even needed.
Right. Well, it's we're talking about, there's some people where they're just starting out and they're learning the lifts. And for those individuals, regular feedback after each session is helpful. And Absolutely. So I have beginning lifting pricing where that is where you can get more regular feedback, because some people need that.
Yep.
But the individual that you're describing sounds very similar to a lot of other online clients that I work with, where they're familiar with the lifts, they're familiar with the form. There's not that much form creep or that many changes or tweaks or suggestions to make about the actual lift, but somebody who maybe has a busy life and they're not able to stick to Monday, Wednesday, Friday on a regular basis, and they need someone else to kind of help them think through what makes the most sense in terms of when to do which lifts given the schedule that they have that week, and then also kind of just hold them accountable and give them some form feedback and some encouragement and some a path to follow.
Exactly. No, and going back to what you mentioned about the first month, you have a month, a different pricing. We do too. We have a first month price, and then we have a monthly price after that. And that first month is a little bit more because that first month we really are doing a lot more work. We have to see, we have to see the lifts. If it's somebody who we haven't worked with before, but they've been training themselves, we're going to have to maybe make adjustments to their numbers, to their load. Yeah. If it's somebody beginner, like my guy in Florida, that first month of November, that was a lot of work. That was a lot of work on my part. So I was giving he was uploading videos, and I was pretty much giving feedback throughout the week here and there. Now it's March. I don't do that. We've moved into that other, right, area where now I can do weekly feedback because he's no longer figuring out the lifts. Now it's just the tweaking. Now it's the weight's getting heavy enough where we have to play around with grip. We have to, figure out, okay, when's a belt necessary, ordering a belt, making sure that getting a better rack, things like that. And then I have two other guys who had been doing the program, had been training. So they didn't need as much attention because I've seen them in person as well. They live close by, close enough that they can come see me. So it's, it's being able to, know the person, know how much feedback you need to give them. And usually it's going to be a lot more early on. But then once that month settles down, it becomes a little bit more routine. The programming's there. Everybody's kind of getting used to the training, their schedule. What I found, and I want to talk about how when you're coaching, you're giving feedback. This gives people an idea of how we both, give feedback and coach. When I was working with Barbell Logic, which was Starting Strength online coaching before, first couple weeks, I'm thinking, how am I going to type all this crap? How am I going to give feedback? No one's going to read this. Like, who's going to read, because you're trying to give a lot, right? It's not like in person where you can immediately fix somebody, say, yeah, you lost tension at the bottom. You're doing this after the fact. So you're trying to give them a bunch of stuff, and you don't want to overwhelm them with too much.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, because you got to be careful not to.
Right.
You got to kind of parse it out.
My husband, Nostradamus 2. My mother's Nostradamus 1. Diego's Nostradamus 2. They both know it all, right? They know everything. He said to me, why are you doing that? Why don't you do a screen recording? I was like, a what? He said, a screen recording. Get QuickTime, pull up QuickTime, and basically, talk over the videos that you're watching. I was like, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
What? So all of a sudden now you are not just, you're the online coach who's actually talking to your client, pointing out in their videos where things went right, why things went wrong on that rep, how they need to kind of adjust their grip on the press or the deadlift, and they're going to have to watch that video and watch themselves in order for them to get the feedback. Because I used to tell my clients, if you look back at your video on your squat, nobody's going to look back at the video on their squat. The anal ones will. The type AA personalities will, but the other ones who are kind of like they're not sure if they even want to do this, they're not going to do that. But in order to get that feedback, they have to watch a video. It's so much easier. It's like a 5-minute video. You're listening, you're watching, you're hearing the coach's voice. That changed the game for me. That was a game changer.
That's a great idea.
And I do that now, and I do that a lot in the beginning. Pulling videos side by side, like pulling up a deadlift video and pulling up the person's video and showing them, the differences between the two and what you're looking for. That is it's a big part of my first month, 2 months of coaching. Then after a while, those videos start to go away and I can just type quickly. And if I need to do a video, well, I do one. It's not new anymore. But the beginning, the screen recording, game changer. So that's a big part of, and that I don't think I could be as good a coach online if it wasn't for that. Because, and also just, for them hearing it, because there's that there's that, you need to hear it, see it.
More immediate.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like when I had that cursor and I can touch the screen, I always say, I wish I could just reach through and like put your hands here, because you can do that in person.
Yeah.
Right. So that's
between their shoulders and get them to your man chest.
Yeah. So you mentioned in the beginning, who's it for? So online coaching, it can be for that new lifter who's looking to get started. And
As a caveat to that, though,
yes.
I'd say, a new lifter who lives far enough away from a coach that they could work with in person.
Right.
Because I've started people out in person who live like 2 hours away. They'll drive 2 hours. We'll do like a 4-lift clinic, go through all the lifts. Then they transition over to online coaching. I guess, obviously it depends on who the person is and what their life is like. But if you can make a 2-hour trip for one session and learn all the lifts and then go back to online, that's better. But both of us have worked with people in other countries, considerable distance away, in really remote areas in the United States, like where there aren't any starting strength coaches near them. So that's better a lot of times than trying to figure it out on your own.
Yeah, I think it's so for that person who's, who doesn't live maybe 20, 30 minutes away from a gym. Because I think 30 minutes, I've got clients who drive 30 minutes, 40 minutes to get to the gym.
Yeah, and they come regularly. People who come on a regular basis.
Right. But there are plenty of people who live that distance, but don't really, they can't just physically, just schedule wise, it's much easier to do online. I have a guy who lives in Timonium. Timonium is a 25-minute drive to my gym, but he does online. He'll come in once a month to see me, and he trains at home. It's great. That's wonderful. I have a guy who lives in Delaware. That's in about an hour drive. Yeah. Even just dropping in, he wants to drop in during the week. So but for most people, they're out of state, or they definitely are, too far to make a commitment to be able to come in, multiple times a week, to the gym. A lot of our clinics, if we have people from Virginia or, Philadelphia who come in for like a 2-hour clinic, just a form check, and are looking for coaching, we'll offer, hey, we do online coaching, because they're close enough that they could make a trip in to do an in-person session here or there, but they definitely live too far to become a regular member. Actually, Jay, that's how Jay got one of his clients. He did a clinic, and she lives in Philly, and now she's an online coach. I'm a client of his, and she's coming in, next month for her session. So that worked out really well, because this is somebody who really was committed to the program, but definitely couldn't figure out how to continue on her own. And that's a big thing. That's where we get a lot of people who start this, come in, hopefully for the most part, the ones who are close enough, because we have the Virginia, Pennsylvania, Delaware surrounding, states, but they just don't know how to continue the program. They've hit the wall. They've been doing this for a while. They don't want to hurt themselves, and they just don't know how to progress. And that's really what I think online coaching does best, is just, aside from the feedback on the lifts, it's the programming. It's continuing to help somebody figure out how to progress week to week, month to month. And that's what happens with my in-person clients. We get to a point where after we've spent some time helping them and working on their technique, now it just becomes a matter of managing their program. It's more of, I'm watching, things get heavy, we make little adjustments, but those adjustments were made way early on. Now it's just managing the program and continuing to make sure that they haven't developed any bad habits, as they've been continuing, So I think, who's it for? It's for anybody who would like definitely help with programming, and also just technical technique feedback, so that they know that they are moving in the right direction, and if something's hurting them, like one of my guys whose knees are bothering him, why is his knees bothering him? Well, you can see clearly what's going on in the video, and even in person, this is why the knees start to get irritated. They're not irritated all the time, but every now and then. And this is also somebody who thinks a lot about overthinks, and he knows it. He knows it. So helping him to kind of stop overthinking so much and realize how much progress he has made.
Yeah. But that's I guess I would say then a third category of people for whom online coaching is a really good option, right? You've said, people getting started who live too far away to make it in person, people who have crazy schedules and need help with programming or programming around their life,
right,
or programming in order to make progress, but also people who tend to get aches or pains or injuries. And,
yes,
and people like I've got, I've got a client now definitely who seems to like always have something that's irritated or tendonitis, kind of something, someplace or other, it migrates around. And so figuring out how to modify and adjust and then make form corrections that are related to what might be the contributing factor, like helping people troubleshoot.
right.
And especially if it's people who, and maybe they're people who overthink things, or maybe they're people who just tend to notice aches and pains more and want to be cautious about those things. And trying to understand or figure out how to program around that sort of stuff. Yeah.
I think that, you know, I've made some notes here. I was talking about like the who, what, when, where, why of online coaching, but, you know, I think when to start it, we probably mentioned this, but when you think you need it, I mean, when you feel like you really seem to be spinning your wheels, I think a bit. I think that's what happens. You know, we've got people come in. I've been doing the program for, 6 months. Okay, or I've been doing the program for a year, or
I've been on my LP for a year now.
You know, I think that's. I mean, even my stepniece. So my stepniece worked with Ryan down in Virginia when he's moved up to Bowie now, but he was in Alexandria, and she wanted to get started lifting, and Sophie's 19 years old, and I got her in touch with Ryan, and she was so excited. And she went to Ryan, and he did a couple sessions with her, and she put together a home gym for herself in her dad's basement. She goes to George Washington, so she commutes, and she's got the rack and she's got everything set up, and she's been training. So I saw her on Sunday. My mom said, "Well, what are you lifting right now? How much are you doing?" She's like, "Well, I've kind of been just stuck at this same weight. I don't know what to do." I said, "Come on." I said, "Soph, you need online coaching." I said, that's exactly the person. It's, you've done it, you've done the sessions, you get excited, you start to train, you buy the equipment, and then all of a sudden you realize, something feels heavy. You don't know why it feels heavy, and you just decide to kind of just keep repeating that same weight over and over again because until it doesn't feel heavy anymore. When in reality, it's not that heavy. You can go up, but you don't have the confidence. You don't have the confidence.
I would have said it just always feels heavy.
Exactly. And I said that to somebody.
On the bar, it's always going to feel heavy.
And that's exactly what I said to one of my clients in person yesterday. She was saying, "Why is it so heavy?" I said, "It always feels heavy. It doesn't matter what the weight is. It always feels heavy." I said, "That's the beauty of this, right?" She said, I wouldn't say it's a beauty.
That translates as it always sucks.
But it was funny. So she said exactly that. She said, I don't know what to do. I really don't have a program. And that is where a coach, a good online coach, comes in. Not just give someone a program. And I don't like that. I don't like when people ask for just can I get a program? What's a program going to do? I can write anything for anybody. I mean, I can put something together, but unless you're going to follow it, and unless there's some kind of end product, and then you come back and you give me feedback for how that program's running, I don't know if it's working or not. I mean, Diego can write programs for our clients, and then we check in with them. There's got to be there's got to be feedback. There has to be this is what's working for me, this is what's not. And my clients are really good about that. They'll say, one of my guys seems to be kind of exhausted from, he's an older lifter, and he doesn't understand why he's just, gassing out. It's like, the volume might just be too much right now. I mean, you're also doing a lot better than you were 2 years ago when you first worked with me, where the weight was very, very light, and he was complaining a lot about his knees. And now the weight's much heavier, the knees are better, but, he seems to be kind of tired off and on, so we have to bring the volume down. But that's the kind of feedback that he can give me because he's got an online coach. If I just gave him a program and he just did it, and I didn't know that he was having problems with the volume because he just wanted a program, well, that's a waste of money, I feel. because that person's just got something and there's no discussion. There's no way to know, is it working?
That's a good point with online coaching, like the communication.
Mm-hmm.
Because some people, you have to dig a little bit more.
Absolutely.
To get some of the information
Yes.
out of them.
Yes.
And there's a lot of information that is easier to pick up from a lifter when you're seeing them in person.
Mm-hmm.
And you see them in between their sets,
Mm-hmm.
and you see them the way they walk into the gym, and you see, how they sort of spend their rest time, if they're slumped in a chair looking exhausted, or if they're chit-chatting with other people in the
Right.
gym. That tells you something about their fatigue level.
Right.
And that stuff you don't need to dig for. You see it, like they're displaying that information for you. But for somebody who's online, you really have to like check in with them and ask pointed questions
Mm-hmm.
about that. What's stress and fatigue and sleep
Mm-hmm.
like this week? How's nutrition?
Yep.
Have some way of like trying to monitor fatigue, or having that conversation. Because you don't see that stuff.
No, and if they're good, they'll tell you. Like my one client will tell me, this is.
Yeah, some people are more private. Emily.
I know.
They don't like to share.
I know, but the thing is, for those listening, you have to share. You have to share things like, I didn't get enough sleep last night, or I didn't eat enough today, which is my clients will do that in person, or they'll email me and say, I'm coming in tomorrow. I didn't get much sleep last night. So I don't want to, I can, and they can push their session till the next day. My client in Florida asked me, can I split up my sessions? I said, of course you can. Can I squat and press in the morning and deadlift in the evening? Sure. That's ideal. I mean, if you can, I do that on Fridays. I split my sessions up into 2 sessions. Then you're nice and fresh. You don't need to pack it all into, to one session if you can split it up. So that helps him. He didn't think he could. Of course you can, right? Then you're fresh. He wants to get the most out of his training. He needs to do what he can do. And if he has the time to do that. But we have the communication. If he had just a program and he didn't know he could do it, he could just still be trying to smush those sessions in. And then why is he not making progress? Why am I not making progress on this program? But, there's no feedback. There's no two-way street. So a program that you just get off of the internet or just buy from a coach, unless you follow it, and even if you're following it, but you're not being able to give any feedback or provide feedback to somebody, is it any good?
Well, I mean, like what you're describing there, though, like if you buy a program, you buy a template, there's no flexibility, right? Like the coach helps you take something that is a program that you might purchase and view as being set in stone. And I have to do whatever the program says.
Right.
Otherwise, I have failed.
Right.
And the coach helps you figure out how and where you make appropriate changes if needed based on circumstances that you might not have been able to predict when you bought the program.
And I think that's why, putting a little bit more money out for a coach is kind of, it's worth it. If you don't, unless you don't, if you don't have the money, that understand, and then maybe you're somebody who can really follow a program well, and you can make adjustments on your own, and you're still making progress, and you feel good, great. But then there's some people who they can't, or like you said, it's set in stone. How many people feel that everything I said, and I tell people this is not set in stone. There's flexibility in this. If it's not working for you, we need to discuss. And that's even in person. Because all of my clients are on different programs. They're not all on the same program. So even with them, I have to keep track of who's doing what and why do I have them doing that? What's the reason? But I need that feedback. Diego gave a program to a lifter. He's a coach himself. He wanted to compete in the Stronger Together meet in December, and half the time he didn't follow the program. And Diego was like, what's the point of me giving you a program if you're not going to follow it? And this is a coach too.
Right.
He's just scheduled. He's just busy. He was busy coaching. He was busy. So half the lifts, he said to Diego, yeah, I didn't do that. Yeah, I'm not doing that. I just took that out. Diego's like, why? He's like, so, he just kind of threw his hands up. He laughed, but it was like, could have made a lot more progress if he had actually followed the program. And he made great progress. He did well, but could he have made better if he had actually followed what Diego had written and maybe, and see where it could have gone? Yeah, but he made a choice to just to skip something, just to take it out or not do it. It's like, okay, so what's the point? And I always say that, what's the point? And that's something to mention. If you're going to hire somebody, an online coach, you might want to think about, are you a coachable client? Can you follow the program that this coach is giving you?
About that.
He wrote an article about that, about somebody that we had in person.
Uh-huh.
And one of my clients, and he listens to this podcast, so I love him. I love you. I'm not going to mention his name, but he would laugh at this. When I worked with him a couple of years ago, he was not a very coachable client, and he even admitted that. He said, I look back at my my work from a couple of years ago, and I wasn't the most committed client, was I? I said, no, you weren't, but that's okay. You've learned. And that's the thing. You have to kind of decide, I'm going to put some effort and time and effort into my training, and I'm going to make an effort to listen to somebody who I trust. If I'm going to hire somebody, if I'm going to reach out to somebody, I need to trust this person. And the coach, hopefully, should be able to, provide good feedback and good consultation and good programming and make adjustments as needed. And not be, this is the program I gave you, you have to follow this. And if you don't, you're not going to make any progress. There has to be a two-way street. You can provide a good program, but you have to be flexible enough to change it too. I mean, that's just that, because the person who's hired you, things are going to come up. Life's going to be difficult, or they're going to have an injury, or something's not working. It's not your fault. It's more of just like, okay, let's make adjustments so that you are going to make the most progress possible. And for somebody else, that program may work just fine, but for this person, they need something different. That's where a cookie cutter program isn't really, valuable, because we're all not the same. People can tolerate more volume, less volume, more intensity, less intensity, whatever it is. So, but being able to know yourself and know that if you're going to hire somebody, trust that you're hiring somebody who's going to guide you in the right direction. And if you find someone and you don't think you're going in the right direction, don't be afraid to just say, this isn't working out, and look for someone else. I think we're all going to find someone who works with us, and we might find someone who isn't quite the right fit, and that's okay. We have to make sure that we find someone who's, the right fit for us. But you have to be open, at least the beginning, open to enough to follow something to see, is this working for me? And that's why Diego wrote that article, because we found someone who wasn't open and willing.
Just one?
Pretty much. Yeah, no, it's true. He wrote that article. He wrote that article because of one client who he tried to fire, and she came back, and he had a talking with her. He had a talking to her, and then he decided to write an article about, if you're going to hire somebody, if you're going to join a gym, and you might want to consider listening to that person and not arguing with them every time you come in. Just saying. We don't want to work with you either.
Yeah, I got teenagers for that.
Mm-hmm.
I got my own teenagers for that.
You don't need the adult doing that to you. But that's an important thing. I think that coaches, we don't think about that. I have one of my members who just started a new business. She's as a virtual assistant. And she said to me, I had to fire my first client. I said, really? Good for you. I mean, people can fire, their coaches, but coaches can also fire their clients. Yeah. If, you don't, it's not worth it if we're working with somebody who's really not invested in what they're doing. And I don't mean someone who's got a busy life when that is understandable. Like there's plenty out there that we all have to take into consider. But this is somebody who just really just decides to not listen or argues a lot. Maybe you're not, maybe coaching isn't the right thing for you. maybe you need something else. Or maybe you just want to coach yourself. That's fine. It's like someone deciding to be their own lawyer, representing themselves. Instead of hiring a professional. Doesn't go well, usually. Even coaches need coaches. Right. So I think that's something I definitely wanted to bring up, because that can be very, very frustrating for both parties. I'm trying to think of what we haven't covered as far as.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like we might have hit
I think we hit everything. Yeah, I think we hit everything. I think you can we don't need to really recap a pros and cons. I think you can.
I guess the only thing I hadn't said is you were talking about using QuickTime, especially with clients in the first month.
Yeah.
And I haven't done that yet. But what I typically will do, if it's somebody who has already had some coaching, right? Like the people who are brand new, I'll start them out with a couple of Zoom sessions where it's like, and I mean, I've worked this out with people in Australia too. Like you can work around time zones.
Absolutely.
If people are a little bit flexible and it's for a few sessions. But the other thing I'll do differently, if it's somebody who has had some coaching previously or has at least a level of confidence about their lifts, they aren't like, I don't know how to do anything, I need to be taught from the beginning, is I'll set them up in True Coach, have them, do what they normally would have done that week, submit those videos, have a look at those videos, and then set up a Zoom session with them. And so I see what they're currently doing.
That's the idea.
Then I have in mind the pieces that I want to work on that would be too much to type. And so then we go over those in person. And then after that, a lot of what I do in the first month or so is like screenshots. Screenshot, here's you at the bottom of the squat. This is what we want it to look like. Here's that sort of thing. This is your back angle. This is where we want it, so, but yeah, QuickTime sounds.
Yeah. And we figured it out on, a laptop. Like Jay figured out how to do it on his laptop. Craig figured out how to do it on his iPad. Lots of the technology is out there to figure out. I mean, but people like to use, I can't remember the name of the app where you can draw a line. That's cool and all. I find that just doing that screen recording and taking my little cursor and being able to pause and play and slow it down, like right there, because they'll usually upload it to YouTube. I can slow down the deadlift. I can slow down the squat. Like I was able to show one of my clients who was exaggerating a little bit too much of the deadlift finish. I want you to stop right here. And I would hit pause where he would be completely, hips forward, shoulders slightly behind the bar. And then I'd say, and here's where you go. And then, it keeps going. So he could see, okay, that's really the finish, not that, So I really, again, just doing the screen recording is huge, but you have to figure out for the coach, how to do it on whatever you're using. I was thinking of something as actually I wanted to, before we wrap up. So, I have a new client, actually the wife of my client in Florida who wants to get started, and this will be completely new for her. So this will be another new person starting from scratch. And I was going to set up a Zoom session with her. I didn't do one for her husband because I know how he moves. I don't know how she moves. I like the idea though, listening to you, of sending her, and I was going to send her the videos anyway, but having her do a week practice, kind of go through, watch the videos and do a deadlift, a squat, a bench, a press, and then set up a Zoom session with her. Okay, you've already seen the videos. I've seen what you've sent me as far as like filming yourself. Now let's go through all of them, because I was actually thinking of having to show her the videos and then doing a Zoom session after it, so she would have already seen how to get under the bar. But I like the idea of having her send me a week of each lift, kind of showing me how she gets under the bar.
Yeah, except
how she presses.
pretty much do that with people who have already been coached.
Oh, well, people who've already been coached do that, but I kind of want to see, that's what my client in Florida did. He watched the videos and then he sent me videos of himself doing it. And then I just gave him feedback. But with her, I feel like I'd like to do a Zoom session with her, because unless she moves really well, there's no Zoom session needed. It all depends, I think, on how easily the person is going to pick up the lifts. Some might be able to watch a video and perform the exercise very well. Others have no sense of their kinesthetic awareness. So it's like, yeah, it's like, oh my God, yeah, okay, we need a session. So I want to play it, I want to see what's going to be needed. You never know. You never know how the person's going to, move. She's done fitness. She's done some stuff in the past. So she might move very well. We may not even need.
Yeah, that's always tough to tell, right?
You don't?
You know that, like, a lot of times people who have had a lot of exercise experience in the past have a harder time with squat than people who are brand new to it, because they are stuck on that high bar squat form.
It all depends on, I think, if they've been doing it, either they've had some coaching, maybe even in the past, even a little bit of coaching, or if they move really well. Some people have just moved very well and can move from one type of exercise to another. If they learn how to do a goblet squat, they might have a very nice back squat. If they can do a kettlebell deadlift, teaching them how to deadlift isn't a big deal. But it all depends on what their form was with those other, lifts. So I think that kind of wraps up online coaching. Rebecca, as we mentioned earlier, Rebecca does a fair amount of online work. As a gym owner, I try to keep my online coaching kind of to a minimum, because I'm at the gym 6 days a week. So I do my online coaching pretty much in the afternoon, like when I have a couple hours in the afternoon, or on Saturday when I come home from the gym. But both of us are available for online. Rebecca's got her background as a runner. So I think a lot of people like to have you, they're going to seek you out because you've got a different athletic background or something similar to maybe what they've done.
Some people specifically that
exactly.
were like, I'm a marathoner, but
yeah. But we both work with got all ages. My clients in the gym run from young 20s, early 20s to, late 60s, 70s. My online clients are kind of around, the 30, 40, 50, 60 age range. But I think, online coaching is definitely a way to go if you can't find someone that you really like in person. And you're not comfortable going to a gym right now, or you just have a gym at home that you really enjoy, the home gym experience, and need a coach to provide you with programming and help guide you so that you make the most out of your own training. So, you can always contact Rebecca at
cornerstonestrengthmaryland@gmail.com.
And you can always reach out to me at emily@5by3.com for anything. Online coaching or any questions about our, my gym, or if Rebecca does in-person coaching as well. She's in Anne Arundel, Severna Park area, Anne Arundel County.
Yeah. Millersville, Severna Park.
So if you're
Baltimore and Annapolis.
Yeah, since she does in-person coaching, and we of course have a gym. So there are ways to reach out to us and see us either in person or online. So contact us or share information with friends of yours who might be interested in doing this type of training and are looking for a coach, maybe looking for a female coach, or just looking for someone nice like us. And don't forget to check out the information about the Charm City Strongwoman contest and the Ulman House in the links in our podcast notes. Thanks again for joining us today, and we'll be back in a couple weeks with another topic.
Enjoy the spring weather.
Exactly. Spring is here, and it's really nice and warm in Baltimore right now. Of course, it's going to be 30 degrees on Sunday, but hey.
Fabulous.
That's okay.
It wouldn't be spring in Maryland if it weren't erratic.
The birds won't know what to do. They're chirping right now, and they're going to, who knows what they're going to do on Sunday, but I hope it just doesn't snow. That's all I want. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Rebecca. We'll be back soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to 5x3 Radio with Emily and Rebecca. If you like our show and want to know more about 5x3 training, please visit us at www.5, that's F-I-V-E, the letter X, the number 3.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. To learn more about Rebecca, please visit her website, cornerstonestrengthmaryland.com. Thanks for listening and have a great week.